really hurt Mexican immigrants, especially illegal Mexicans. If you're really trying to encourage illegal Mexicans and you're really trying to encourage them to come to this country and live in substandard situations, eat at McDonald's. Flat out. And or eat any fast food. And the reason I say that, as it was pointed out in this really good documentary, is that the factory food system, which is essentially created by the fast food industry and the United States government, is putting small farmers out of work in Central America, Mexico and Central America, because they can't meet our subsidies for corn products. Corn syrup, everything is based out of corn. They're even feeding corn to cows, which is creating all sorts of weird diseases because cows don't eat corn. They're feeding cows to cows, which is even worse.
I know, it's so ominous.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't...
And so there are a lot of people who go around saying we should be giving the rights to illegals. We should give them the rights that citizens have in the United States and stuff. It's like, that's not even the argument. The argument is, why are we forcing them to come here in the first place? Well, we are doing that over convenience. Eating at places like McDonald's, Burger King, you know, which again is fine if it's a once-in-a-while treat. As we say as we're eating.
Yeah, right.
Lemon berry slush is probably made filled with corn syrup.
It's a rare treat.
Well, only because we've been talking for like probably 2 hours solid and are getting hoarse and thirsty.
I mean, I look at the system, like, I went to McDonald's, I mean, it's been years ago when I saw this, but they have those little paper things they put on the tray.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back of mine, like on the front, it has like, connect the dots, make the maze, find Ronald McDonald, all this stuff. But on the back, it listed the amount of beef, eggs, pork, and it was 6 billion pounds of beef, or 60 billion. I mean, it was a phenomenal number.
It was essentially done in a factory system, an assembly line process. And my wife and I last October were driving to the Grand Canyon, and we passed through this area as we crossed into Texas from Oklahoma. And at first we couldn't make out what it was. It was like, those are awfully weird-looking trees in an area that has no trees. And it's all these hillsides were just coated with them. And the closer we got, we realized the trees are moving, as in like they're moving. What are those, rabbits? Are those, you know? And finally, when we got to it, the smell hit us. It was miles and miles of cattle. And there's several areas in the United States that are gathering points, and almost all of it's going to the fast food industry. And the cattle are going through the slaughterhouse and the assembly line, and they're being turned into frozen beef, which is a shameful waste of meat, by the way. And
yeah, I feel really lucky in the sense that Jessica's mom and dad know a lot of farmers in Iowa. So we get really good farm-raised beef that isn't...
grass-fed.
Yeah, it's grass-fed.
Not corn-fed or beef-fed.
No. Right. I mean, that's horrific. Horrific. And it's bone meal and things like that they're feeding these kids.
And a lot of it's coming back to us in the form of diseases that have never hit cows before.
Well, it's bovine trying to remember, bovine spongiform encephalitis, or there's like BSE, that's mad cow disease.
Yeah, mad cow disease.
It's a prionic disease that causes the proteins not to fold correctly, so that your brain just gets holes in it.
This is a demonstration of
so I'm texting my wife. This is her workplace, by the way. And that's why I always say, I started saying this, it was kind of funny. And,
that's right. Oh, yes. I heard about that.
Yeah, and I pick on my wife because she's not from this country and one of those straws.
Mm-hmm.
And she she gets things wrong sometimes, phrases especially, to go over her head, or she doesn't understand when she's saying something wrong. Her English is excellent. It's much better than my Visaya, by the way, or any other language, because I never learned any other
I
language.
know. As an American, we're only required to learn American.
American. And you know, the funny thing was they were grilling this Japanese executive of Toyota on the news yesterday. I was watching it, and the guy, it was remarkable. His English wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. It was better than most Americans' English. He spoke with a little bit of a British accent.
This is a demonstration of Wirecast.
15 minutes. Anyway, so the guy grilling him, I could hardly understand. And I'm like, it's a shame they're grilling this intelligent man. They're going after Toyota over these apparent defects where they've only killed 36 people. I'd hate to see what American corporations have killed.
Oh, yeah, right.
And they're going after Toyota on this. And the foreigner from Japan, a completely alien culture in many ways to our own, knows English better than the guy grilling him, the American.
There's something, you know, we're what, 3% of the world's population? We use 35-40% of the world's resources?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an equation that balances well. I mean,
No.
it's not an asymmetry that bodes well for our future. Because we don't export what we used to. We're not. I mean, maybe all that will change. I mean, there's so much happening right now that I don't feel very confident about our position as global superpowers. I feel okay about it for the next 15 years, but I don't really see much beyond that for us. As, you know, I see, once you've built something this big, like we're coasting on the legacy of World War II, on the fact that we pretty much bombed the entirety of this civilized world into rubble, and we weren't even touched. And so we built this massive infrastructure, and other people rebuilt. I mean, it's not like Germany didn't rebuild its factories and Britain didn't rebuild its factories, but we were so far ahead of the curve that we're coasting on the legacy of that. But the rest of the world's caught up. I mean, it's not like they're out of the game. It's not like we're still on top of the game. But there are a lot of people who disagree with me about that.
Wirecast.
Well,
And I don't know that I'm right. I'm not stating, like, with art, I feel much more confident.
a huge mistake we made after World War II was, during World War II, to be productive, we employed a guy by the name of Deming to figure out how to make our factories run at peak efficiency. And
This is a demonstration of Wirecast.
forget it. I can't figure this out. But the thing with the factories was that as soon as the war was over, we had no incentive to stay with that system. And the system was essentially every worker has input into the system. If you give somebody work and you empower them with that work, they will figure it out. They will figure out the best way to do the work, and the efficiencies will increase. You don't need to hire huge blocks of managers to oversee these people. As soon as World War II ended, all the troops came home, and they wanted their jobs back. They got rid of all the women who were working in the factories and all the other people, and the troops came in and worked their old jobs, went back to the old way of doing things, the adversarial management-union relationship, all the works. Well, meanwhile, in Japan and Germany, who've been bombed out of existence, they were desperate because they were going to starve to death. And the United States government was desperate to make these countries into successful, viable countries versus the Eastern Bloc countries. So they employed Deming's philosophy, which was called total quality management. And it was interesting, the way I learned all this stuff was in the Air Force, because apparently it was a big thing in the early 90s. We still haven't employed it in this country.
But they use it
This
overseas.
is a demonstration
Oh,
of
definitely in
Wirecast.
Japan and definitely in Germany. Well, actually, we did start using it here in the United States in very successful factories. And all the Japanese factories, Japanese companies that have factories in the United States employed it extremely successfully, which flies against the General Motors and other companies' managements who said that the problem lies with the unions and the American worker. It has nothing to do with the unions or the American worker. It has everything to do with the way we've run our companies when we had no competition after World War II and into the 50s. Now we're competing on an international scale.
With subsidies that have really helped prop those industries up for a very long period of time.
Which
That
makes
is
you
given-
wonder if we haven't dug ourselves in a deeper hole with this recession.
Yeah, I don't, you know,
Subsidizing businesses that are too big to fail.
yeah, and the thing is that people, there's still a massive amount of purchasing that's not happening, that hasn't passed through the system yet.
Mhm.
And so there's still like a wave of refrigerators that are not going to be purchased, and new car tires that aren't going to be purchased, and I mean just all these little things that people are going to not spend money on because they have to spend what little money they have on other things. And so,
Yeah, health insurance.
yeah, right. Which now they're saying the premium is going to go up 50% for most people. Like, you know, like there's this terrible news on
Yeah,
all
we're
fronts.
going to punish you people for supporting the health care plan.
I mean, you've got deflation in housing, you've got inflation in healthcare and food and energy. It's not. It's a situation that there is no historical analog for. There's no.
Let's see how fast our internet's are. It's been pretty good everywhere we've driven so
Yeah,
far.
it's
And I'm surprised we haven't gone to the Northeast neighborhood.
It's been really
Because
consistent.
Jessica took us on a tour of the Northeast last time.
Oh, right on.
So, let me see.
Yeah, it's a good. I like the Northeast. I mean, you talk about the prices in Northeast for properties right now are less than what they were in some cases when the properties were built.
This is a demonstration.
I mean, we're talking about
Wirecast.
houses that were built in the 1920s that are selling now for the same price they sold for in the 1920s. That aren't decrepit. They're selling for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. Like her and I looked at an apartment building, duplex, all brick.
Pardon my misspellings and stuff, but I did this in 2006. And I mentioned it to you. This is making great television because
Demonstration of Wirecast.
nobody can see this.
Always edit and post.
Oh yeah,
But these are not editable.
this is live TV.
It's live TV.
Let me get one of these windows that I was playing around with opened up. Well, I can do it here. There's this thing called the desktop presenter.
This is a demonstration of Wirecast.
Window. No, not Skype. Although nobody called us on Skype, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's new. I really do think that this can do something. That I believe that your approach, especially the driving around thing, I really think that this is a really nice way to do it. I could see it being very successful. You know, I'm going to say that I know some bands,
Demonstration of Wirecast.
some musicians, and some other people who would love to do this 30 minutes to 2-hour type interview about
Yeah.
what they do. I mean, I think you could start to get a lot of people interested in participating.
Okay.
I mean, I feel really
So
confident.
now we can share with the rest of the world